I want to bring you back to the summer of 1943, specifically in New Mexico, where a guy called Edwin Land was taking some family pictures, enjoying the summer, taking some pictures there. And he is an inventor. Actually, spoiler for you, he's the inventor of Polaroid. This guy, Edwin Land, had registered over 500 patents in the US. Only Thomas Edison has more registrations than him. And that is incredible, right? But during the summer, as I was saying, he was taking pictures with his family, and his daughter asked a very interesting question. A 3 years old daughter, Dad, why can't I see the picture right now? Very simple question. But that was in the mind of Edwin, and he was walking after that, walking through the city, thinking about this problem because, bear in mind, he's an inventor. His mind doesn't work in the same way that normal people would usually take a question like this. So that was in his mind, and during this walk, according to his biography, during this walk, he projected, he understood what would be needed to have a picture that you could take and see it at the same time. So he described in detail that idea for his lawyer. They registered the idea of instant photography. And basically, in 1948, Polaroid will launch the Model 95 in Boston. The price for that was $89, and they had around 60 cameras for the launch. They sold out. Everything was sold in the first day because for sure the market wanted something like that. And for many years to come, Polaroid would be the business that would dominate the market. They would be the ones, you know, dominating, taking the lead on a market that actually they created. And by around 1970s, we start to see that Polaroid was in every single US home, basically, or in majority of the US homes. But that was a point also where digital photography was start to be a thing. But what happened, and it's similar to the story of Kodak that we already covered, Polaroid, in a different way, they didn't ignore completely the digital photography. They actually thought it could be a very good idea. But imagine that the company had a gross margin on their normal business in their instant film with around 65% of margin. It's impressive business. It's very hard to run away from that and think about innovation and have a business that you are dominating with a strong margin like that. And basically, as I said, they didn't ignore it. But the phrase that the CEO would say later, it explains very well why it was so hard for Polaroid to change a little bit or change the direction of the business. He said, "We knew we needed to change the fan belt, but we couldn't stop the engine." It's a very interesting reflection. I think it covers and explains completely what Polaroid was facing at this point. In October 2001, Polaroid would go bankruptcy with around 1 billion in debt. So the company was born from a child's question, very simple one, but yeah, it was not possible after a long run to ask the same question again and reinvent themselves, and therefore the business died. So it's the same logic, I would say, but it's impossible to answer from inside when it's already, as the CEO said, when the engine is already running. It's hard to stop the belt or make a maintenance on that. So for Polaroid, if you think about the very different business case that we saw over history, it's easy to understand why some companies today they even having like R&D or innovation labs that are business completely apart from the mother company because they want to split innovation and new business completely to do not capture the culture that is already installed in the company, and therefore those companies can move faster in case the market is changing. But for Polaroid that was not on time. As I said, they failed. And this is completely connected to the first topic we are going to cover today, asking the right questions, asking the basic questions. Because now, in the beginning of 2026, we are seeing companies asking people to completely come back to work in the office. Basically, companies like Stellantis, they are gathering their employees and sending them over to work completely from their office, like full time. Stellantis sent an email now in February 2026 asking 8,500 employees in France with a very clear message: remote work is over and you should come back to the office. 90% of those employees would respond to the union survey and said that they were against it. So basically, the companies is asking something that the employees are not willing to do anymore. And, and of course, we don't see that happening only in Stellantis. Of course, this is something that called the attention now in the beginning of the year because it's a big company. They had some issues from a business perspective on their EV market M3, or they are facing some issues, and they want to show to the world that basically this is our turnaround. People are going back to the office. We are coming back. We are going to recover. They want to send a message to the market. But the question is always, why is or what is the reason why you were expecting the people to come back to the office? What is the purpose for that? Many companies are saying that the reason for this callback is about productivity, is about doing better or doing more. We have like a survey or a research from it's called a remotive state of remote work in the beginning of 2026, where since 2024, return to office mandates from different companies grew over 12% and is growing quite rapidly now in start of 2026. Um, Actually, in the same report, we saw that even though the call from the companies to come back to the office is increasing in 12%, the actual numbers of people coming back to full-time work in the office is around 1 to 3%. It's very low. There's a research from Stanford from a guy called Nick Bloom that said that the split between remote and in office days remain a bit like stagnant. The mandates are coming, the companies are requesting people to come back to the office, but people are are not following it. And that is a tricky thing because if I start to think for a while on a different generations perspective, I imagine that, for example, my father's generation would think that it's crazy that company are asking people to even go to the office and employees are not following it. Well, I mean, it's a big clash of perspectives here. This is one way of reflecting on this, just one. And of course, if you think about that, we already see a big revolution in the way of working. Because in the past, for sure, there was not even a consideration that would be doing your work in a different place other than the company's office, right? But now with different kind of work with knowledge workers, we see that the place where you're doing your job, doing your work is not relevant anymore for some positions. And that's why after all this circle on the surveys and everything, that's why we should always be asking what is the reason that the company is expecting people to come back to the office? Because there are reasons that are very valid depending on the position, on depending on what you want to build with people coming back to the office. But productivity is not one of them because reports that are coming since pandemic times are showing and proving with data, with numbers, that in many different areas in software development, for example, people working from home produce more and better quality than those teams working from the office. And the reason for that is because they are able to concentrate more and with this concentration deliver with more efficiency what they are being required to deliver in a period of time. And this deliverable are for sure increasing quality. This is not something that is coming from me. This is coming from data. And with that, it's pretty much back to the question, what is the reason you're asking people to come back to work in the office 5 days a week? If you the reason for that is because you are seeing a problem in your culture and you want to have the team collocate to that, to improve on that, to build more cohesive teams, maybe you have a point. Because for sure, and this is again data showing that co-located teams, they can build better communication and they will build a better relationship between them. This is not about productivity. This is not about execution. This is about something else. This is about team building. So you need to know, if you are a leader, if you're a manager, you need to know why you were requiring people to come back to the office. Because if the only expectation is that people would be doing things at the office or having meetings that could be emails, then you have a problem. People will lose their motivation. And for sure, you are going to have good talents deciding to leave your company. But then, if you're an employee and you're building your career and you're requested to come back to the office because of a valid reason, then you need to also understand what is the balance between what you can deliver and deliver well, what the company is requesting, and how you want to build your career. And of course, of course, there are many other ways to reflect on this, but from a career perspective, I really wanted to provocate you more to reflect on this a little bit from a scenario perspective. Because if the company that you're working right now, let's say you work from home or you're working hybrid, they decide that your position now it's mandate to come back to the office and work 5 days a week. What would you do? Are you going to consider change the company because of that? Are you considering to change even your position inside the company, but stay in the same company because you believe in the mission of the company and believe what you are building there? What is going to be your position on that? Because I'm very curious and I want to know in the comments what is going to be your position. And please let me know also your industry. Because when we talk with people, I've been working in the IT industry, the software development industry for many years. So when I look to people in this kind of work, I can very easily see what people were going to respond. But I know that many people listening to this podcast, watching this video, they do not follow the same or they are not working the same industries. And I want to know what is your position on that because it's for sure a moment of revolution again that we are living where companies are expecting you to work from the office. What you as a leader, as a manager, are going to do to make sure that you keep your talents if they are not motivated with this idea, and what you in your career as an employee going to do if your company require you to come back.